Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of KMM's Mobility Matters podcast. I am Arlene Holt, your host, and I am here today with Christopher Gonda, KMM Safe Routes to School Coordinator. Hey, Chris.
Hello, everyone.
And today we are joined by a very special guest, Sean Meehan. He is the Senior Research Specialist for the Arlene M. Voorhees Transportation Center at the Edward J. Blousing School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers University. Try saying that 10 times. Hi, Sean.
Hi, Arlene. Hi, Chris. How you doing?
So for some of you that don't know, Sean is an alumni of KMM. So we are really happy to have you here with us today, Sean.
Thank you, Arlene. We were just saying before we started recording, I started working at KMM almost 20 years ago to the date.
That's crazy.
I know. I can't think about it too long.
I started a little bit after you, so I guess I'm younger. But it's so great to have you talk with us today. And you know, as you work now with Voorhees, you have a different perspective. So you've been in the TMA world, and now you are at the university level doing research. And so we're really happy to talk with you.
Great. I'm happy to be here.
So Chris, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about what is the Safe Routes to School program at KMM?
Well, before I get to that, so my first time meeting Sean actually was at the 2012 New Jersey Bike and Walk Summit. And that was before I accepted my first position working at the Safe Routes to School program at Easy Ride, formerly Meadowlink. And at the time, I was still on the fence about transitioning to this new world of transportation. But after I met him and the team at VTC, I was thoroughly impressed by where everyone's minds were in regard to where this program was going and the personalities and the people who were involved. But since then, you know, Sean's become like a mentor to me, and I'll say it, I hang on to every word he says when it comes to Safe Routes to School and the work that they're doing in the state. But as for our work at KMM and Safe Routes to School programming, my responsibilities are to bring the educational programs and events to schools and communities through bike rodeos and through in-school presentations and even virtual assemblies and information sessions that we've done during COVID. So what's nice is that it's a pretty flexible program, and we can meet schools and communities where they are and put together programs like walking school buses, where kids can gather with parents and walk to school together. Or if they want to have a monthly walk to school day, that's something we could organize with them too. We have some bigger programs that happen in the fall for International Walk to School Day, where we'll have something like 30 schools in Middlesex County all celebrate Walk to School Day throughout the month, not just on International Walk to School Day itself, but whenever they can. But some of the bigger initiatives that we've been working on since COVID were actually these larger scale bike safety clinics for kids, or bike rodeos, that we've been hosting with a number of municipalities in Middlesex County. So that part of the program is growing, and that's something we like to see. But there are also other parts of Safe Routes that we want to talk about today. But in regard to that type of work and the program at KMM, that's the type of initiative that I need and I enjoy bringing to our communities in the county.
So before we jump into to the rest of our podcast episode, I just wanted to clarify for those listeners who aren't aware. If you hear VTC, we're talking about the Arlene M. Voorhees Transportation Center. So it's just an acronym to make it a little bit easier on the tongue. But Sean, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about the New Jersey Safe Routes Resource Center.
Sure. So Chris gave a great overview of the programs that KMM runs, which are programs that KMM sister TMAs also run in their own regions. So my job at the New Jersey Safe Routes Resource Center is to work with all the TMAs. I have the privilege of working with everybody around the state and kind of helping to ensure that the program is run consistently throughout the state and working with all of the TMA Safe Routes coordinators on training and outreach. And in addition to that, we also do research on behalf of the Department of Transportation to, kind of further enhance safe walking and bicycling throughout the state of New Jersey with a focus on children and making sure they can get to school and wherever else they'd like to get safely and independently.
So as this is Bike Month, we'd like to highlight some of the events and to shout out some of our sponsors, because without those people, we would not be able to do the things we do here at KMM, and as well around the state. Our partners work very hard on these programs. So Chris, would you mind telling us a little bit about some of the events that you're working on and some of the partners that you work with on a regular basis to ensure that students and children all around Middlesex County get the quality education on bicycling safety?
So this May, we have a lot going on. Some of it is happening through some of the organizations that we've partnered with. For example, our friends at Girls in Gear and Gabby Rossi is doing, they are doing a Girls in Gear session at Greater Brunswick Charter School, which will start in May and then run into June. I'm actually doing more in-person activities now that the pandemic is waning just a little bit. And I was invited to do some presentations at South River Elementary School. Now, this is actually the first time I'm going in schools since the pandemic started. So it's really important to me because a lot of our work happens within the schools too, and bringing that education there. So I miss working with schools in that assembly setting. So I'm excited to go back and do that. And another event we have coming up soon is Perth Amboy's Bike Day by the Bay. So it's going to be their community-wide bike rodeo happening at Richardson School, and then transitioning into a community bike ride throughout the city, where folks from all over New Jersey are welcome to join us for a short tour of the city of Perth Amboy. And along with Bike Month, I know that, like Sean said, we have sister TMAs, 7 others throughout the state, and I'm sure they have some exciting things going on too. Sean, do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Great to hear these events that are happening throughout Middlesex County. So as Chris mentioned, the 7 other TMAs are also working on events to celebrate Bike Month this May, which is also New Jersey Walk and Bike to School Month. We like to celebrate May as Walk and Bike to School Month in New Jersey each year. So each TMA works in partnership with the New Jersey Department of Transportation to run their own local Safe Routes to School program and kind of be the point person for Safe Routes to School in their service area. So one of the great things about this structure is that each TMA does similar work, but they get to customize it to their own service area. Each TMA knows their own community and area better than everyone else. So there's a lot of opportunity to customize the programs, customize the activities for what they think will work best in their area. So each TMA is doing different things. It's hard to say, one type of thing. So there's education programs, there's contests, there's a variety of things going on. And it's really great that, we're all doing similar events, but we have an opportunity to kind of make it our own and make it interesting and exciting for the people we work with.
You're right. And Chris, you had mentioned a little bit about the assemblies at South River and some of the bike rodeos that are happening. So can you talk a little bit about what those activities encompass?
So when I go to schools and offer our walk and bike safety presentations, we break down elements as simple as crossing a street and encouraging kids to look left, right, and left so they're aware of traffic, and using their ears and taking their time to cross streets to understand the full situation before they set themselves out in the space that they'll have to, for a moment, share with people who are driving and people who are behind the wheel, or people who may also be biking or using other modes of transportation in those spaces. So to understand that they're not the only ones using those spaces and to be more aware of what's going on out there before they decide to talk to their families about walking to school. So like we said, part of the Safe Routes to School program is education. So we bring that into schools using assemblies, or we mentioned bike rodeos, where I'll work with kids on bike and show them not just how to ride a course, but what they're actually doing is practicing what looks like games on bicycles that transfers into practical skills that they'll be using whenever they use their bikes, whether it be at a park or around their neighborhood sidewalks, streets, paths, or trails, or wherever they go on bike. So an example would be, I'll have them ride up to a certain distance and look over their shoulders. And when they do that, they're being more aware of the traffic around them, but they're also practicing holding their bike steady as they're doing that. So you can imagine if you're riding up to an intersection on a bike, you'll have to make sure that there isn't any oncoming traffic as you're about to make a turn or complete any other maneuver. But when we do that in the bike rodeo, it's all within a contained atmosphere and environment where there is no traffic, and kids can practice these skills safely and at the same have fun with myself and the other volunteers and groups and organizations that we welcome to these events. So it turns into not just an educational opportunity for them, but a great experience for volunteers and the school staff who are there. And it's also eye-opening for the parents who haven't seen that type of education before, as well as the community members who haven't thought about using their bikes for transportation yet. So when it comes to the educational pieces, those are the things that I thrive on as a cycling instructor. I always tell people that, yes, we can do things in the classrooms or on the computers, but my favorite thing to do as a Safe Routes instructor is to work with kids outdoors, whether it be to show them their neighborhoods and what could be improved, or to take them out on their bikes just to show them a good time during the bike rodeos, as well as bring that safety element to how they ride their bikes.
So funny story, and Chris has heard this a million times, but during the pandemic lockdown, my daughter was struggling to learn how to ride a bike. And my husband and I felt really guilty because we're like, she doesn't know how to ride a bike. She needs to learn how to ride a bike. That's a major skill that she needs to learn. And so I was so exacerbated one day, and I reached out to Chris, and he said, take off her pedals. And I was like, what? He's like, take off the pedals and let her balance, learn how to balance. And we did it. And within a day, she learned how to ride a bike, which we had been trying for years and years. And so Chris is, when you say that you love working with kids, we can see it. And the videos that you have created during the last year and a half that highlight your son, who is becoming a YouTube sensation. It really does show how much you love what you do as a Safe Routes to School coordinator, and that you're really good at it. So on behalf of my family and so many other families that have benefited from your teaching, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and during the pandemic, my son was also able to learn how to ride a bike, and he's only 2. But the funny thing is, yes, we took off his pedals and he learned how to balance, but he never had a tricycle or any other experience learning how to pedal. So throwing that part of the skill into things was an interesting experience too. But now that he's 4, he's got a hang of it, and I can take him around the neighborhood a little bit. His little legs can only take him so far on his little 12-inch wheel bike. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun. It's been a joy as a father to see him just gliding along, having fun. And with the pedaling, one of the things that encouraged him was to sing a song, and that'll give him a rhythm to move his feet. Funny enough, but it just so happened to work. So it'll be, I think it was March, and he's riding down the street singing Christmas songs because it was the only song he could think of at that time. But in any case, Sean, we talked about some of the educational activities that we've brought to communities and in schools, and we've done some of that work in Highland Park. Sean, we talked about a lot of the educational opportunities and activities that we brought to communities and schools, but I'd like you as a resident to tell us how that has worked for your community in Highland Park.
Sure. And I just want to back up for a second. That story Arlene told is a perfect demonstration of why the Safe Routes to School program is so important. There's not every parent has the skills they need to, teach their child to bike. And the coordinators at all the TMAs are just so experienced, have so much knowledge. Like Arlene said, they can help you get it done very quickly and get it done right. And it's such a valuable program for, for schools, for parents, for really the entire community. And we've seen that in Highland Park, working with KMM over the years. So I've lived in Highland Park for a while now, and I'm actually the vice chair of the town's Safe Walking and Cycling Committee. And we've partnered with Highland Park many times. KMM, sorry. Highland Park has partnered with KMM many times over the years, and it's always been a great experience. So, and actually one of the things that I think is great that's happening in Highland Park is we're kind of moving on to some more intense events and education, if you get what I mean. So they still do walk to school days in Highland Park, but it's gotten to the level where it's become almost an ingrained thing, and they don't always have to call KMM and Chris to come run these events. So they can do some of the more basic events by themselves, which is great because it frees Chris's time up to go work with other communities who may just be getting started. And then the time he spends with Highland Park, he can do other things. Like I wouldn't dream of having a bike rodeo without Chris and KMM there. That's something our committee, it's a great partnership, and it would take so much planning without Chris's experience and contacts. It's gotten to the point where you can just call Chris, book a date, and almost show up. And as long as we bring him some volunteers, it's smooth, it runs great. Everyone has a good time and kids learn, and it's just so valuable. So, that's kind of at the state level what we're hoping happens, that some of these more easy to do programs like a walk to school day become ingrained, and that they just happen at the school level. And the TMAs are then freed up to spend more time, not so much starting programs, but building these programs, expanding them. More knowledge, more education, and more involved events that really lead to that lifestyle change we're looking for.
And Highland Park has been such a great partner for KMM as well. And you talk about your walking and cycling committee. I'd love to have you on in a future date to talk about how to form a walking and cycling committee in town and how that happened, because it really does change the dynamics of a town when walking and bicycling are part of the fabric of the community. With that said, so we've been talking about a lot of the events that are going on through Safe Routes to School, such as the education component and events such as the bike rodeos and the rides in Perth Amboy. Chris, can you tell us a little bit more about the other component of Safe Routes to School?
Yeah, so there is another side of Safe Routes to School. I like to compare it to bicycle helmets, right? Yes, we can outfit everyone in bicycle helmets. We could protect them from head to toe with other kinds of armor if we want to. But if we don't create safe spaces for kids to ride their bikes, it doesn't really complete what Safe Routes to School is all about. What I mean by that is we can give them the education and give them those tools for what they need to do on the road. When it comes to saving lives of vulnerable road users, education only goes so far. What really saves lives is giving them dedicated spaces to travel. Sean, you could probably back me up on that. But in regard to the education programs, that's one part of Safe Routes to School. But the main goal is also to make changes to the built environment that are actually safer than having to need safeguards like bike helmets.
Yes,
Sean,
I totally agree, Chris. Yeah, Chris, I totally agree. And I'm so glad you brought this up, because Safe Routes to School is so much more than just walk to school days and bike rodeos. The education is a very important part, but like Chris said, we're also looking to change the communities throughout New Jersey. So the New Jersey Department of Transportation, manages the Safe Routes to School program statewide, and it's kind of got two prongs. So it's the non-infrastructure approach, the education activities, the encouragement activities that we've been talking about so far, but there's also the infrastructure approach. So the Department of Transportation manages a grant program that municipalities can apply to actually make some infrastructure changes. So to change the streets, change the crosswalks, to make it actually safer and easier for kids to walk and bike to school. So the TMAs have a role in that aspect as well. So while they're mainly focused on these non-infrastructure programs, they can also help with school travel plans. So a school travel plan is a great activity for a community to work with their TMA on. So the school travel plan, takes an assessment of the roadways and the routes to school, around school in a community, and notes what needs improvement and what good practices are also present that could be replicated throughout the rest of the community. So the school travel plan identifies these issues and also brainstorms solutions with the community to some of these issues. So the school travel plan is a great exercise to learn more, to think about what changes you want to make to your community, but it also helps a lot when your community is applying for one of these Safe Routes to School infrastructure grants. So having this information already laid out gives you a leg up when it's time to start working on your application. And if you have a school travel plan, it also gets you an extra point towards consideration on your Safe Routes to School infrastructure grant. So it's really a great activity, and it's an incredibly valuable service that TMAs offer.
And that might sound complicated to some, but essentially to get those assessments and those findings together, what you first need to do is get people together who are interested in making those changes and making those changes for safety in the community, and just to simply walk the routes that should be improved, and to look at, say, this street is very wide. What can we do to make that space safer? And to document it, and the TMAs will help you put that together in that travel plan.
Chris, can you talk?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, I was saying, and that is something that all the TMAs can help the communities do, to take them out on those assessments, to help them document those findings, and to put them in that plan.
Are there any communities in Middlesex County that have created school travel plans?
The Borough of Metuchen and Metuchen Schools develop a travel plan for Campbell Elementary School and Metuchen Middle School. And furthermore, KMM has also helped the Borough of Highland Park and Highland Park Public Schools develop a travel plan for Highland Park Primary School. And KMM also helped the Borough of Highland Park develop, and Highland Park Public Schools develop the travel plan for their district. And actually, I saw that. I'll get back. It's just a side note. Go ahead, Sean. So now these travel plans, they don't just sit on a shelf. What we do is to equip the communities with a tool and all the information that they need to apply for federal funding to make those infrastructure changes in their communities. Sean, can you tell us more about how that travel plan benefited Highland Park?
Well, that's a long story. Basically, our school travel plan came about a couple of years ago now, and it kind of led to a lot of changes. So our school travel plan has helped us apply for 2 different rounds of Safe Routes to School infrastructure grant funding and win both of them. So it really helped us kind of have that. We knew the problems already. We knew what we wanted to do about them, and we could use that text and put it right into the applications to apply for funding. And it made the process a lot easier when it came time to do these grants. A lot of times, there can be a tight turnaround process, and having the school travel plan at hand really, really helps with that process. And from that initial school travel plan, as Chris said, it's really a great way of bringing the community together and getting people who are interested in safety and making things better in the community for children, getting them in one place, talking about issues and concerns. And that kind of led to further things in Highland Park and the establishment of our Safe Walking and Cycling Committee. So after we completed the school travel plan, the borough council didn't want the momentum to end, especially one council member who was our founding liaison to the Safe Walking and Cycling Committee. She just loved the whole process and really wanted to see things continue. So from that process, she decided we should have a Safe Walking and Cycling Committee. So it kind of, leads back to that. So it's really, I can't talk about how wonderful an experience it is enough to have this school travel plan. It's a great way to bring people together. It's a great way to understand your community better. And it's a leg up when it comes to applying for these infrastructure grants.
Please talk a little bit about the infrastructure grants, what kind of projects look like, the award range, if you're familiar with that.
I don't know the award range offhand, but generally, the types of projects are anything that makes it safer and easier to walk and bike to school. So sidewalk improvements are very common. Intersection improvements. So a really wide intersection with high speeds, maybe calming that traffic, putting in sidewalks, putting in paths for children to walk and bike to school on. There's a lot of things that can be done. It's what people have to remember, though, is it's about walking and biking. It's about making it safer and easier to walk and bike. So some communities have put together applications in the past to, reorganize their parking lot to make it easier for parents to drop kids off via car. That's not what the program is about. That grant's not going to get funded. It's about improving the walking and biking environment. So that's what people need to keep in mind. And that's another advertisement for working with your TMA as well. Your TMA knows all this. They can help you pick the best projects, and they know about the process for developing these grant applications, and they can help you to make sure you're on the correct path and that your idea is a good idea, a valid idea that might get funded. That's great information to have. So don't go it alone. Call your TMA.
Thank you so much. What a great plug.
It's all true.
You're
And
right.
When it comes to these projects and making these changes in the community, they could be as simple as improving the sidewalks or the crosswalks. But from a public health standpoint, that can be a big change to that can affect how people think about how they get from one place to another. What wasn't a safe route before on foot can now be perceivable as, oh, I can use this space now to walk and get groceries and take my kids to school. I mentioned the groceries because, when we make it safer for kids to walk, we're also making it safer for the whole community to choose walking or cycling as a safe means of transportation.
That's right. That's part of what I love about the Safe Routes framework. So, we're talking about making it safer for children to get around their community, but whatever you do for children is good for everyone. So, by planning with, elementary school children in mind, you make sure that you're kind of planning for everyone. You're planning for people with disabilities. You're planning for the elderly. You're planning for moms with baby carriages. They need curb cuts too. There's just so many people. The entire community benefits from this program. And that's part of the reason I love it.
Don't forget dads with baby carriages.
That's right. Yeah, I can't honestly think of anyone who doesn't benefit from a Safe Routes School program. And, sometimes you hear from people and they get cranky, they're like, well, I don't have kids. I don't care. Well, you should care because it really, when you make the community better for kids, you're making it better for everyone, yourself included.
Yeah. And that's a complaint that many people have about their communities, right? One of the complaints in my community is that we have sidewalks to nowhere. They kind of end in the middle. So a program like Safe Routes to School would enable a community to find those sidewalks to nowhere and connect them to locations where people actually need to go.
That's a very good point, Arlene. And the sidewalks to nowhere argument I hear a lot. And sometimes you hear this when new development comes in and there isn't a sidewalk there already, but they put in the little bit in front of the new development. That's actually a good thing. I just want to let your readers know, because of exactly what you just said, Arlene. Eventually, we can connect it. So if you can get this put in these new developments as part of their development, that's one less bit of sidewalk that the community has to pay for to connect. So sometimes these sidewalks to nowhere really aren't a bad thing, because they do offer us this opportunity to connect. So definitely fight for sidewalk during new development, during renovations, and working together with your TMA, with your non-infrastructure program, your infrastructure program, the Department of Transportation, grant funding. There's a way for communities to make these connections, but every little bit helps.
Right. And a lot of municipalities are requiring new developments to install sidewalks for that very reason, because it takes the burden off the municipality to create all these walking spaces for people. And then grant programs like Safe Routes can help fill in those gaps where they're needed.
Now, Sean, have you seen any, I don't want to call it behavioral changes, but since these projects were installed in Highland Park, have you seen more people walking or using those spaces?
Well, Highland Park's a walking community, so there's always been a lot of people walking. Mm-hmm. I can think, so I've been working on Safe Routes to School for a long time. As we said at the beginning, I started at KMM 20 years ago. And one of my first assignments was to look into Safe Routes to School. And I had no idea that 20 years later, I'd still be looking into Safe Routes to School. But here I am. So statewide, I've noticed a lot of changes. In 2002, people kind of looked at us like we were crazy when we said we wanted kids to walk to school. They were like, no, it's not safe. It's not a weird thing anymore. There's so many communities throughout New Jersey where there are more kids walking and biking. And people come to you more now. And I'm sure you've seen it at the TMA too. People are more interested in getting these programs started. Whereas 20 years ago, you were a weirdo for suggesting that, kids should get out of the car and walk and bike more. Now people are actually, it's not a weird concept. There's still some communities where it's not happening and it's a hard sell, believe me. But people have heard of Safe Routes to School. People understand that, walking and biking is a valid form of transportation. So just this attitude shift I've seen throughout the state has been amazing. So yeah, in Highland Park, there's always been people walking and biking. I just think it's better. It continues to get better with more improvements. So we're doing sidewalk connections. We're doing curb cuts. We're putting in more bike racks. We have a bike fix-it station in our farmers market area. So each improvement makes it even better. So I don't know if I've noticed more people, but I know it's easier. Everything's easier just from living there. It's an easier place to walk and bike, even from when I started living there, probably about 10 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just a note about these, when a community implements a Safe Routes to School program, it, like you said, it doesn't just benefit children, but it benefits the entire community. And it also benefits the business owners within that community, because it makes it so much easier for people to get in and out and walk and visit mom and pop shops and do their grocery shopping and get out. So it also assists with creating an economic engine within your own municipality. So it's all pretty much interconnected. There's not, when you don't have a safe walking and bicycling infrastructure, you're going to see less people walking, and therefore it becomes more difficult for your business, and it doesn't attract as many people to want to do business within your municipality.
That's 100% right, Arlene. I couldn't agree with you more.
So before we finish up, because we're running out of time, I just wanted to briefly talk a little bit about some demonstration projects within Middlesex County and within the state, and what they are, what they look like, who's doing it. So Chris, if you want to start off.
Well, I really wanted to pose this question to Sean, and the way I'll ask that is, considering Highland Park's success with Safe Routes to School and the travel plans, and that leading towards the creation of your Safe Walking and Cycling Committee, how has that shaped how your local leaders view demonstration projects towards active transportation? Even things related to placemaking, how have those all been interconnected? And can you say Safe Routes to School had something to do with that?
Yes, in a way, Safe Routes to School has, because it kind of inspired the community group, so the Safe Walking and Cycling Committee, to continue to try new things. So we've done a couple of pop-up bike lanes, one much more successful than the other, but knowing that there was support in the community made the council more willing for us to try some of these things. So we did our first pop-up bike lane, 4 or 5 years ago now. And, people were a little nervous, but it happened. We did it. And we had a little bit of pushback from some community members on that, but we learned so much. And the next time we did a pop-up bike lane, we made some changes in our concept and our ideas and the way we spoke to people and the way we notified people, and it made all the difference. I didn't hear a single negative comment about the second one. And I believe that second one is actually supposed to be implemented into a permanent lane as part of a new development happening on the street where we did it. Wow. So it's that connection. It's, the kind of try it before you buy it thing. So we put it in, it worked, people liked it, and then it became something, the borough asked the developer to implement as part of their development. That's excellent.
Now, in regard to the pop-up bike lane, was it hard to do? Did you need a lot of supplies, or was it, what materials did you use? Like, how can communities replicate that type of thing?
So communities it takes thought and it takes partnership, but it doesn't take a lot of money. It can be pretty quick, it can be pretty cheap. So the second one that we did even involved less materials. So we basically used spray chalk. And we used that to paint lines on the street and to fill in a template that our police officer actually made himself. He got a piece of wood and he put the bike lane stencil on it, cut it out. I don't know exactly how he did it, but it was amazing. And, he laid it down. We did one recently also, through my work in Asbury Park. And we did a stencil on vinyl flooring. So my colleague bought leftover vinyl flooring. We hung it on the wall. We projected the bike lane stencil onto it, traced it, and then cut it out with an X-Acto knife. I think it cost $11. Wow. So if you're creative, this doesn't have to cost much. And then the temporary spray chalk paint, I can't remember how much that is, but it's not too bad. And the beauty of that is it lasts enough for your project to be a couple of weeks, but it's not permanent. Mm-hmm. And if things go really bad and someone really wants that gone, it can be sprayed off with a pressure washer instantly. So it's not it's that semi-permanent. It'll last as long as you need it to last, but it's not forever. So it doesn't cost a lot. It takes a little bit of time. You don't want to go alone. Like, you don't want to do this as one person. So get some friends together, get your community group together, and work together. Work with the you want to make sure you have permission. Don't don't go rogue and just spray bike lanes. But
well, that's what you call jungle urbanism, right? Go rogue.
Yeah, that might not work out well for you, as long as you have the support of the community to try it out. And that's the beauty of these demonstration projects. You're not demanding something permanent. You're telling them, hey, we'd like to try this out. This is our idea. Our group will work to put it together. It's not permanent. After this amount of time, it'll be over. What do you think? It's much harder to say no. And you try it out. If it works out well, great. Maybe it can be implemented permanently. If there were certain things that need to be improved, you didn't actually put real paint on the ground. It's much easier to make these changes. So demonstration programs are a great way to kind of see what the future of walking and biking in your community could be.
And I think with that, we can start wrapping it up unless, Sean, do you have anything else you want to add? Chris?
No, Sean, thanks for that answer. I haven't really talked to too many people that have experimented with the pop-up bike lanes. So I'm curious to see more of that. And we may be inspiring some guerrilla urbanists, and we'll see some doorbell cameras of people spray painting bike lanes in front of people's houses. And but no, Sean, that was really great, and I really enjoyed talking to you today. And I think we might need another episode with you to talk more about your safe walking and cycling committee. And
I think we're going to have to invite him
helped.
back a couple times to talk about, the demonstration projects in Highland Park, as well as the walking and cycling committee.
Great. I am more than willing to come back whenever. And I have to make yet another plug for KMM. If you're in Middlesex County and you haven't worked with KMM yet, what are you thinking? Call them today. There's so many things that KMM can help you with beyond even Safe Routes to School. And if you're listening and you're outside of Middlesex County, there are TMAs that cover the entire state. And there's someone who can help you. So if you're not sure who your TMA is, you can actually go to my Safe Routes to School website. So it's saferoutesnj.org. And we have a great tool on there to show you who your TMA is. So, if you're not in Middlesex County, don't worry. There's someone who can help.
We will add all the resource links to the bottom of the description of this podcast episode. So with that said, thank you so much to our guest, Sean Meehan. And we really appreciate you coming on and talking with us about Safe Routes to School. And of course, my co-host, Chris Gonda, who is the Safe Routes to School coordinator. Hopefully we'll get some phone calls of people wanting to do some demonstration projects and applying for Safe Route money to improve their communities. Thank you to all our listeners. We hope you'll come back and listen to our next episode at Mobility Matters.
Funded by the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority and the Federal Highway Administration.